Interest rates go up again, this time to a 15-year high. The Bank of England, as expected, has raised the base rate by 0.25% to try to bring down inflation. We'll get reaction. Also ahead, it's a wrap. Greenpeace's protest at the Prime Minister's house over his plans to drill for more gas and oil. The Cabinet Minister with careers advice for the over 50s. Consider a job as a takeaway driver. Birmingham City's surprise signing. NFL star Tom Brady becomes a minority owner and will help train players.
Maybe you're asking, what do you know about English football, Tom? Well, let's just say I got a lot to learn.
And bigger than the big blue, the ancient whale that could steal the crown as the heaviest animal that ever lived.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Nina Hossain.
Good afternoon. Once again, interest rates are going up. Once again, the committee voting for the move that will hit so many mortgage holders was not unanimous in its decision. The base rate has gone up to 5.25%. It is the 14th increase in a row. You'd have to go back to April 2008 to find a rate so high. So bad news for bill payers, but potentially good news for the Prime Minister, as the Bank of England forecasts that he will meet his promise to halve inflation by the end of the year. Here's our political correspondent, Shihab Khan.
You've heard this news 13 times before, and today you'll hear it once again. The Bank of England are raising interest rates, a decision which was greeted with protests today. But with inflation at 7.9%, the governor of the bank insisted the move was necessary.
Our job is to make absolutely sure that inflation falls all the way back to the 2% target and stays low. So today we've increased bank rate by 0.25 percentage points to 5.25%. Low and stable inflation is the foundation of a healthy economy. High inflation hurts the least well off the most.
David Nightingale is the landlord of the Woolpack pub in Peterborough. The interest rate rises means their rent has gone up, and he's worried about the future of his business as customers spend less as they start to tighten their belts.
So we're on a break even or a loss at the moment. This has probably been the most challenging times business that I've ever experienced. It's not just me, other landlords. When you hear a landlord saying it's hard, that is an understatement.
And that concern is certainly not unwarranted. A report from Springboard has found footfall across retail destinations went down in the month of July for the first time ever. The government, however, remains insistent the current strategy is the right one.
I really understand how difficult rising rates are for people, but it is essential that we get inflation under control, because that is what's driving the cost of living challenges we're facing.
Rising rates mean many will see higher mortgage repayments and higher rents, and experts worry that could have a huge knock-on impact.
It's not now just the price rises that you're seeing on things like food and transport, but it's also now going to hit on borrowing, so on mortgages, on the cost of your credit card, on your overdraft and on your personal loans as well. So it's sort of a cost of debt crisis on top of a cost of living crisis.
And Labour point the finger at the government for the current situation.
Inflation in the UK is much higher than it is in comparable countries. In the US it's 3%, in the Eurozone it's 5.3%, and yet here in Britain inflation is stubbornly high at 7.9% because of a decade or more of mismanagement by the Conservative Party.
Although the news of rates rising has become so frequent, many will want to know whether this will be the last time for a while. Shihab Khan, ITV News, Westminster.
Our economics editor Joel Hills is at the Bank of England and sent this reaction to today's rise.
The headline annual rate of inflation fell sharply in June, energy bills are finally falling, and there's every reason to believe that food inflation appears to have peaked. So there are reasons to be hopeful that inflation in the months ahead will fall with greater velocity. But the Bank of England continues to crack the whip. This lunchtime, the Monetary Policy Committee voted to raise interest rates by 0.25%. Two members of the committee wanted to go higher, and it's also warning clearly that interest rates are going to be higher for longer. Now, the bank's worry here is that there are still an unusually high number of vacancies in the economy and that pay growth in the private sector is running above 7% a year. It's concerned that the only way pay rises on this kind of level are being funded is by companies raising their prices again. And so inflation, if you like, starts to feed itself. Now, the bank's forecast is based on a market expectation that bank rate, now 5.25%, will be peaking near 6% before too long. The bank does nothing to push back against that view. In the last 2 months, though, the crowd of respected economists who are arguing the bank really should be pausing has grown. Andy Haldane, David Miles, Mervyn King, the former governor of the Bank of England, have been warning that there's a danger that the medicine is working, but there's a danger of overdose here. The bank has decided to press on. The data clearly shows the headline rate of inflation in the UK is higher than in other countries. As a result, while the ECB and the Fed are signalling that in the United States and in Europe, interest rates may be peaking, that is not the message here.
Joel Hills there, our political correspondent. Harry Horton joins me now from Westminster. Bad news then in the short term for bill payers. Potentially good news in terms of the Bank of England's forecast about what might happen to inflation, especially for the Prime Minister.
Yeah, that's right. Rishi Sunak, one of his top priorities is to halve inflation this year. I think he would have been pleased with what the governor predicted. The forecast from Andrew Bailey was that inflation should fall to 7% in August and then 5% in October. And if he's right about that, and it's still a big if, that would mean that Rishi Sunak would hit his target of halving inflation by the end of the year. That would be a big sigh of relief for him. When he set that target back in January, most people expected it to be fairly easy to achieve, but inflation has proved to be stubbornly high. There is also, though, a political cost potentially today to these high interest rates. The Chancellor will be well aware that businesses and mortgage holders are being hammered at the moment, and that impact is likely to continue for a while longer because the governor said that he expects interest rates to remain high for some time. The Chancellor said that he's doing all he can to help households, but certainly some risk with these high interest rates if they continue for much longer.
Harry Horton, thank you. To America now, and the countdown is on for the former President Donald Trump to appear in court, charged with lying over the election he lost. He's also facing accusations those lies led to his supporters storming the Capitol. He's set to appear at a court in Washington around 9 p.m. UK time. It's expected he'll plead not guilty in a brief appearance. Our US correspondent Dan Rivers is in Washington for us and joins us now. Next year will be a real clash for Donald Trump and America between politics of campaigning and court cases.
Yeah, his schedule is getting extremely busy, Nina, next year. He's going to have this case, which he'll be in court, as you mentioned, later on today, and we'll find out when that case is adjourned. But he's also got the hush money case for paying off an adult film actress, allegedly. That's due to be heard in March. He's got the documents case that will be heard in May, and all of this coming around all of these primaries, Super Tuesday and all the rest of it, and the campaigning. So a very busy year and problematic potentially. This case, though, will centre around really whether he knew he had lost the 2020 election when he claimed he had. Last night, Bill Barr, the former Attorney General for Trump, was pretty withering about his assessment of what was in Trump's mind.
Yeah, at first I wasn't sure, but I have come to believe that he knew well that he had lost the election. And now, what I think is important is the government has assumed the burden of proving that. The government, in their indictment, takes the position that he had actual knowledge that he had lost the election and the election wasn't stolen through fraud. And they're going to have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt.
So he'll be facing this indictment, 4 counts in about 8 hours' time. But it's not all over. There is potentially yet another case looming from Georgia, which may be coming in the coming weeks.
Incredible times. Dan Rivers, thank you very much. Thank you. Some breaking news now, and Wilko has just announced it is appointing administrators, putting 12,000 jobs at risk. The high street retailer, which sells household and garden products, has 400 stores across the country. Its boss said it is expected to enter insolvency after failing to secure a takeover to help the business with mounting cash pressures. Greenpeace activists have scaled the walls of Rishi Sunak's home in North Yorkshire in a protest against his energy policies. The Prime Minister is currently on holiday in California. The campaigners say they've draped his home with an oil-black fabric after he announced plans on Monday to grant more than 100 new licences for oil and gas extraction in the North Sea. John Hill is in North Yorkshire for us this lunchtime. How has Number 10, in his absence, responded, John?
Well, as you say, this comes after that announcement on Monday where the Prime Minister said, yes, there would be at least 100 oil and gas licences for the UK. Number 10 says it's an action that they make no apology about because it will ensure the country's energy security. But the action prompted a counter-action by Greenpeace. 4 activists this morning say they knocked on the door of the Prime Minister's constituency home here in Richmond. There was no reply, so they erected ladders and then simply scaled onto the roof, it seems, draped a 200 metres square oily black banner, and they've remained there ever since. Actually, they're due to come down around now, and we think they will be arrested. Greenpeace has described the Prime Minister not as a climate leader, but as a climate arsonist. But as all these questions around the environment swirl, there will now, of course, be searching questions about the level of security here at the Prime Minister's home. How easy was it for climate activists, seemingly simply to walk in unhindered?
John Hill, thank you very much. Thank you. Next, if you are over 50 and struggling financially, a Cabinet Minister has some advice for you. The Work and Pension Secretary, Mel Stride, has suggested that age group should break free from age-related job stereotypes and embrace a wider range of career opportunities like delivering takeaways. Callum Watkinson joins me now. Take us through exactly what he said.
Well, 8.6 million people of working age are currently economically inactive, according to the current official data. 3.4% of them are over the age of 50. We've been hearing a lot about inflation. There is a relationship between inflation and unfilled job vacancies. So filling these vacancies would help. And what Mel Stride is saying is that even though riding around on bicycles delivering fast food might not necessarily be associated with the over 50s. It is a growth industry, no doubt about that, and he says they should be a bit more flexible about what they are prepared to offer the labour market. Oliver Dowden, the Deputy Prime Minister, said today he agrees with him.
When we're talking about inflation, the challenges we face with inflation, one of the challenges we face, and many people will see this in their own high street, you go down, you see the shops and the cafes, they've all got job adverts in them. We need more people working. So if people are able to work, we'd encourage them to do so.
Now, Mr. Stride also said the employers need to be more flexible about giving these opportunities to people of that age. Asked about his own career plans, though, Mel Stride's 61, Nina, he said he was going to stick to the politics.
Callum Watkinson, thank you very much. Thank you. Still to come, bigger than the big blue, the ancient whale that could be crowned the biggest animal on Earth. First, after 2 American actors rescued Wrexham, an American sports star is set to help Birmingham. The former Super Bowl champion Tom Brady has become a minority owner of the Championship Football Club. But it's not just money he's putting in. The club says he'll work with players from the men's, women's and academy teams on areas like health, nutrition and wellness. Our reporter Dan Salisbury-Jones is at Birmingham's ground, St Andrews. Dan, tell us more.
Yeah, it doesn't look or sound very much like a place for one of, if not the most famous sports star in America, but the great Tom Brady will be coming here to St Andrews to watch Birmingham play in the Championship this season. It is the latest, most high-profile stage of a takeover by Knighthead Investment Group, a group based in America with links to Brady. This is how that has come about. You know, they'd already sold 1,200 more season tickets than last season, and that was before today's announcement from Brady.
So here's the deal. I'm officially coming on board at Birmingham City Football Club. And maybe you're asking, what do you know about English football, Tom? Well, let's just say I got a lot to learn. But I do know a few things about winning, and I think they might translate pretty well.
What I think is quite interesting about that announcement video is the similarities to Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, the film stars who took over at Wrexham not so long ago, in being in showing that humility about what they know about English football and not kind of saying, yeah, I'm going to come in and turn it all around. I think they've certainly learnt their lesson from what's gone on there. They've done very well at Wrexham. Birmingham City fans, I am sure, are very excited about how they'll do here. Dan
Salisbury-Jones, thank you. The singer Lizzo has denied accusations made by former employees that she sexually harassed and body-shamed them. In an Instagram post, the Grammy-winning artist described the allegations as false and gut-wrenching. She said they were made by former employees who had previously admitted behaving inappropriately and unprofessionally whilst on her tour. Finally, this lunchtime, the big bones that have led to a big discovery. Scientists believe an ancient whale may have been the heaviest animal that ever lived. Research on the remains of a partial skeleton found in Peru suggests the whale had a body mass 3 times heavier than the blue whale. At up to 340 tonnes, it would be the equivalent weight of around 27 London buses. Sangeeta Kandola has the details.
This is a discovery of gigantic proportions. Meet the new and old heavyweight of the water. An extinct ancient whale scientists say swam in shallow seas around 39 million years ago, and now say could be the heaviest animal that ever existed on Earth.
They are unlike anything I've ever seen. What is especially incredible is their mass, the weight of this vertebrate.
The fossils of this newly found marine mammal were discovered 13 years ago in a rock formation in southern Peru. Researchers analysed the remains, 13 vertebrae, 4 ribs and a hip bone, and say it could have weighed as much as 340 tonnes, doubling, maybe tripling, the current heavyweight champion, the blue whale. A giant skeleton of Hope, the blue whale, hangs at the Natural History Museum in London and is around 30 metres long, weighing in at about 180 tonnes. The newly found ancient whale, Perucetus colossus, is shorter, but with a much bulkier body mass. In a special exhibition, the heavy-boned P. colossus is on display in Lima, having now tipped the scales and made a big splash on the marine front after millions of years. Sangeeta Kandola, ITV News.
Lucrezia is here with the evening news at 6:30. From everyone on today's Lunchtime team and from me, bye-bye.